Hi, I'm Jack B. Calhoun, and this is Chapter 3 of It's a Lonely Planet Out There. The place was rammed. Where there had been hammocks, there were now swaying, dancing bodies. The reception area was packed with 20-somethings from around the world knocking back bottles of Bud or getting it on with each other. House music blared from the speakers on the back patio. It was like an uber-cool music video. I headed round, looking for signs of anyone I could recognise. I saw Nassim. The big Tunisian had been one of the few fellow residents I'd spent any time with since arriving. He'd taken the time to show me how to take better snaps on my phone. That evening, as usual, he had his big camera in hand. Usually he was flicking through pictures he'd taken around the island, but now he was taking up close and personal shots of revellers, getting their email addresses and promising to send the pics on to them in exchange for social media follows and likes. He gave me a nod when he saw me. "What the hell's going on?" I asked, shouting to be heard above the music. It was that new couple. They got it all going. "It's been like this for about an hour. Some party," he said. It took me a couple of attempts to understand him. His deep voice was heavily accented, and this wasn't helped by his stoic, heavy expression, unchanging no matter what he spoke about. I couldn't tell if he was being genuine or sarcastic. "New guys?" I eventually asked. Nassim jerked his head in the direction of Tommy. He looked just as he had when he disturbed my siesta earlier that day. His whole demeanour was just the fun side of wild and intense. "Hey, James!" yelled Tommy, walking towards me, beer in hand. "Hi, Tommy, and it's Jamie," I replied. Of course. Hey, man, how's the nose? Listen, I'm so sorry about that. That taxi driver douchebag was aiming for me, sure. Does it still hurt? Here, take this. Just opened it." He handed me his beer. I could have spent plenty of time answering his first two questions, but went ahead and just accepted the bottle. Parties are no place to hold grudges after all. His apology felt genuine this time, too. The beer was ice cold and very, very welcome. We chatted for a bit. He described himself and Anna as professional travel bloggers. I'd met a few similar people on my travels who told me the same. They tended to be searching, hunting even for something, a hit of life that us mere mortals couldn't hope of getting. But Tommy struck me as different. His search was more defined, less desperate. I knew it then, and I still know it now. Anna, too, in her own way, I suppose. She appeared, this time all blonde hair and hippie chic in her style. After whispering something in his ear, she took him by the hand to the centre of the patio. On their way, he grabbed the phone that was plugged into the amp, swiped once, and then tapped twice. Tango music struck up. It was pretty full on. At first I thought he was just swinging her around while he moved with grace and power, but then I saw the straining in her neck too. Everyone gathered round the wild dancing couple. Their movements picked up pace. Having started at a distance from each other, they were now inseparably close, eyes locked. We were voyeurs. They were the exhibitionists. They twirled and pulled at and into one another. His jet-black hair shook loose of the topknot, falling over his eyes. Her large blue eyes remained locked like they saw through his new fringe. The music reached a crescendo and they became a blur through to the finale. There was a stunned silence, a breathless pause, before we all burst into applause and cheers. After a collective deep breath, the party got going once more, and I lost sight of Tommy and Anna as the crowd filled the patio again. I went to speak with Tennessee Jim and Texas Rose. They were honest with me about why they were here and told me about their good old-fashioned affair. They had both long lost interest in their respective partners back home and had hooked up online. In spite of their leathery, over-tanned skin and nicotine-stained fingers, they seemed properly content with one another's company. In a way, I kind of envied them. "You been eyeing up young Linny all night, ain't you?" said Jim. His well-trimmed moustache stretched wide when he enunciated his vowels clearly. I must have been that obvious. "Well, sure, I've never been the type of guy to get nervous when talking to or about girls, but having been called out on my attraction to Linny, suddenly I felt a flush of red come over me." "She probably has guests harassing her all the time," I said. "Where I'm from," said Rose, taking a swig from her beer, "a man likes a woman. He ain't too soft to say something. I guess you British gentlemen are missing something the Southern guys got." Her voice was somewhere between gravel and honey, and her hand grabbed at Jim's crotch. She was provoking me now, but I burst out laughing. I was on my third or fourth drink, topping up the painkillers from earlier. The gears shifted inside my head. I was going to tell Linny just how much I liked her. To hell with the consequences, I thought. I spied her serving up some barbecued meat from the gas grill in the far corner of the patio. I got up to speak to her, but as I did so, another crowd gathered on the patio. And this time, rather than Tommy and Anna, it was Nassim drawing the attention. He'd settled down with a guitar and was tuning it. Someone turned off the speakers. I paused to see what he was going to play. Nassim looked up, expressionless. The streetlight over the wall shone down brightly on his large, close-shaved scalp. With a quick flourish of his fingers, a few notes rung out. Then some more. And then a few chords. And then the two together. And then some words. I didn't understand a single one, but it felt like blues, not what I was expecting from a Tunisian. Not American blues, though. Later, I asked him what it was. He called it desert blues. "Where'd you learn that?" I asked. "Mali," he answered with a shrug. "Mali? What the hell were you doing there?" "Peacekeeping. It was war." "Tunisian army?" This question made him laugh, but his laugh was not like yours or mine. It was subtle, tired, and very internal. No. French Foreign Legion, Jamie. I didn't know whether to be impressed or terrified. Here was a hulking great big North African who had been trained to kill, and yet, at the same time, he'd learned to play such beautiful music, a soulful blues that had made us all sit down and listen for at least a quarter of an hour. When he finished playing, Tommy ran over, kissed him on the cheek, and gave him a huge bear hug. Truth be told, I kind of felt inadequate in comparison to these two giants of men, and lost my confidence to approach Linny. The night drifted on. Occasionally other guests would get up and do a turn. A couple of Spaniards did a flamenco performance, and a Japanese guy played note for note Guns N' Roses covers. It was fun, friendly, and very, very hostile. It just wasn't what I jumped on numerous planes for. But at that point, I don't think I really had an answer as to why I had. Just as I was thinking about this and feeling dangerously sorry for myself, Linny wandered over. "You look 1,000 miles away." Her black hair curled around her ears, giving her a cute, impish look. She seemed genuinely concerned. "I've noticed you," she continued. "You're an odd one." "Odd bad? Or odd good?" I asked, smiling in hope. "Haven't decided yet," she replied, laughing. "Take a seat with me for a minute?" I asked. She did, and we chatted for a while. I asked her about how she'd ended up owning a hostel at such a young age, and she shrugged it off, saying the situation was complicated. The way she talked about the business, however, was mesmerizing. She knew what she wanted from it, and it was also the type of life that it required from her. Her big plan, though, was ecotourism. I want out of Waikiki. I mean, I love the vibe from the backpackers and everything, but you're all hard work and don't pay so good. The way she squinted her eyes for emphasis and turned up half her mouth was cute, but it was difficult to tell if she was being sarcastic or not. I could deal with this ambiguity, I thought. Tourism has to be sustainable and hell, less about consuming stuff. I nodded. She was hitting the centre of something I'd been feeling. Listen, I'm glad you came over, I said, finally plucking up the courage to say what I wanted to. Tommy and Anna had emerged back onto the patio-cum-dance floor, this time with some other couples too. The house music blaring from the speakers kept the dance up. I was taken in by this new rhythm too, and the darkness. It was a heady mixture, when thrown in with the drink and the pills. Look, I bet you get guests hitting on you all the time, and I don't mean to come off as sleazy, but you're like the least sleazy guy I've ever met. You are so polite. No, I think you're a proper gentleman, and, well, yes. Yes, what? I asked. Yes, I've had my fair share of losers thinking they'd like to hook up with a Hawaiian chick. I'm nobody's flag, Jamie. No, I get that, I said, looking her straight in the eye. I know I'm meant to be only passing through, but this place, there's something special in the air. The timing and mood couldn't have been better. I edged closer to her and moved my hand into hers. And that was when we heard the police sirens. Ah, shit, said Linny. Not again.